From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. American language experts have chosen they as the 2015 Word of the Year. The American Dialect Society, or ADS, voted on the issue at a conference in Washington. They is a plural pronoun. For years, people speaking English have used it as a singular pronoun. For example, I am meeting a friend for coffee, and I hope they are not late. The correct use, however, is as a third-person plural pronoun. For example, when I meet my school friends for coffee, they are always late. Ben Zimmer writes about language for the Wall Street Journal. He says there has been a lot of debate recently about something that has been in our language for centuries. He explains that English does not have a third-person singular pronoun that does not identify as male or female. Zimmer says that more and more, they is being used to replace the traditional phrase, he or she. For example, they is used for people who identify as transgender. When former Olympic athlete Bruce Jenner took a female identity last year, he changed his name to Caitlyn Jenner. The new use of they would replace he, and the word their would replace his. For example, they changed their name to Caitlyn Jenner. ADS President Alan Metcalf says, people have argued about the use of a singular they for more than 100 years. And he says, 100 years from now, people will still be debating it. Metcalf says the decision for the word of the year is not based on science. Instead, he says, the ADS chooses from words that express the concerns and stories of the past year. For VOA Learning English, I'm Anna Mateo.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Learning to play the guitar requires a lot of practice, hard work, and, in the beginning, hands that hurt. Playing the air guitar is a lot easier. Without holding a real guitar, you copy a musician's hand and arm motions. But that does not produce any sound. Now, researchers from Goldsmiths, University of London, and the University of Sussex have built a digital instrument using motion technology. It turns air guitar motions into music. Saran Gunatilaka is co-founder of Curve Music. They developed the digital air guitar. He says they started by mixing different motion devices like gyroscopes and magnetometers. They combined that with a mobile phone. The mobile phone has the power to play music combinations as a person motions them. This is how it works. A small pad with 8 buttons fits in the palm of one hand. In the other hand is a large electronic guitar pick. By pressing the buttons on the small pad, the player chooses chords. These chords are united with the sound of the pick in the other hand. The sound of the pick is sensitive to the energy of the arm motion. The guitar connects to a speaker through a smartphone or a tablet using Bluetooth. Jack Fuller is with Curve Music. He says that with just a few minutes of practice, someone who has never played a guitar can play simple music. Players can choose from 3 types of instruments: electric, acoustic, or bass guitar. Its inventors are now raising funds for mass production. That is planned to begin in March 2016. For VOA Learning English, I'm Ann Ball. From VOA Learning English, this is the Economics Report. E-commerce giant Alibaba Group announced recently that it is buying the South China Morning Post, or SCMP. It is the leading English language newspaper in Hong Kong. Joe Tsai is Executive Vice Chairman of the Alibaba Group. He said in a letter to its readers that Alibaba wants the newspaper to offer accurate and fair reporting that will improve global understanding of China. The company said this will help Alibaba's investors. The New York Times reported that Alibaba is paying about $266 million to buy the paper. It said this is a small cost for Alibaba, which has yearly revenue of $12 billion. Alibaba plans to make all the articles free on the SCMP website. Some analysts compared Alibaba's purchase of SCMP to Amazon's purchase of the Washington Post in 2013. The Washington Post is one of the most famous newspapers in the United States. The Wall Street Journal reported that Jeff Bezos, who founded Amazon.com, paid $250 million for the newspaper. It said the deal showed the newspaper industry's economic decline and the shift of power from old media to Silicon Valley, California. In December, the Las Vegas Review-Journal, the largest newspaper in Nevada, was sold for $140 million. Billionaire Sheldon Adelson bought the paper. He owns gambling casinos and is a major donor to the Republican Party. The Review-Journal sides with Republicans far more often than Democrats, reported the Washington Post. And the New York Daily News says the Review-Journal has a very large political influence in Nevada. For VOA Learning English, I'm Ann Ball. From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. Making presentations to others is often a big part of formal learning. But things other than the words we say can affect our message. Some call this physical message, body language. Charles LeBeau is a professor of public speaking. LeBeau tells VOA that Body language includes posture, eye contact, and gestures, how you move your hands or arms. He says presentations are especially difficult for people learning English as they must deal with grammar and natural nervousness. One effect of being nervous is moving from side to side. A presenter does not need to stand perfectly still, but how a speaker moves is important. Whole body movement should be slow and planned. Public speakers should look at the audience as they talk, but they often look at their notes or at the screen if they have an electronic presentation. LeBeau says making eye contact can be very difficult. He says the best way to avoid this problem is to use images and few words for notes instead of whole sentences. The image should help communicate the point you want to make. Writing a few words with the image on your slide helps you remember that point. Then you can look at the audience. Other experts advise moving your body to a different place for each idea. Stay in place until you finish making that point. Then move to the next place on the stage. LeBeau says a good way to change your body language is to make a video of yourself. This helps you to become aware of what you need to change. For VOA Learning English, I'm Ann Ball.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. The Apollo 11 command module, named Columbia, went on an historic voyage in 1969. It took astronauts Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins to the moon and back. It is on display at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. But if you cannot get to Washington, you will be able to see Columbia on your computer or your smartphone. Digital scientists are scanning or taking pictures of the inside of the spaceship. They are creating an online model in 3 dimensions, or 3D. By looking at these photographs, you will be able to see the spacecraft the way the astronauts saw it. Scientists are using special 3D technology to scan it. They are not permitted to touch or climb inside the module. They use 5 cameras on long arms to take large 50-megapixel photographs. The thousands of photographs will be combined with the laser scans. All the images will be loaded into software that lets you look around the spaceship on a computer screen. The user will be able to see the Columbia both inside and out. The Smithsonian Institution says that the 3D technology gives a person ways to see things they cannot see at the museum. Adam Metallo is a 3D imaging specialist. He says that no one has been inside the module since it came to the museum. Now, he says, with this information, anyone in the world can view what it looks like inside this incredible piece of history. The virtual digital model will be available online by the middle of 2016. For VOA Learning English, I'm Jonathan Evans.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Education Report. A new study says electronic toys are not helping babies learn. The study's author is Professor Anna Sosa. She leads the Child Speech and Language Lab at Northern Arizona University. She says, even if companies say their toys are educational, they are not teaching babies. Anna Sosa and her fellow researchers studied babies who were from 10 to 16 months of age. The scientists listened to audio recordings of parents playing with their babies. The children used electronic toys, traditional toys, and books. What they found is that parents talked less with their babies when the babies played with electronic toys. Sosa says that the parents also responded less and used fewer words when their babies used electronic toys. Why is this important? She says research shows that the speed by which children develop language often depends on what they hear from their parents. When the infants played with electronic toys, parents said little to their children. Sosa says parents talked a lot more when their babies played with traditional toys. The parents would describe the toys, name them, and tell about their colors and shapes as the children played. Parents even gave more information to their babies as they looked at pictures in books. Sosa is not telling parents to throw out electronic toys. She believes these electronic toys can provide enjoyment for the babies. But, Sosa says, parents should not count such play as a learning experience. For VOA Learning English, I'm Ann Ball.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Health Report. Health officials in Brazil have declared a state of emergency in several states. They are also warning women not to get pregnant. Last year, about 2,400 babies in Brazil were born with extremely small heads. The babies have a condition called microcephaly. Microcephaly causes severe brain damage. At least 29 of these babies have died. In 2015, the number of microcephaly cases in Brazil was about 15 times higher than the year before. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, says there are many causes of microcephaly. The World Health Organization says it does not know the cause of the microcephaly outbreak in Brazil. However, the CDC says the link between a virus infection and microcephaly is being investigated. The virus is called Zika. Zika is spread by mosquitoes. Some babies in Brazil born with microcephaly had the Zika virus, while others did not. The CDC says that Brazil reported its first case of the Zika virus in May 2015. Since then, it has spread. In addition to Brazil, it has caused infections in other countries in Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia. The CDC says the common symptoms of Zika are fever, rash, headache, joint pain, and red eyes. Zika causes mostly mild symptoms in adults. However, in fetuses, the disease can cause severe brain damage. There is no vaccine or medicine to prevent or treat Zika. Health officials around the world are closely watching the situation. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carolyn Presutti.